Everybody, my apologies for that. Literally, as we click the go live button, Stelios disconnected for us, and we disconnected for Stelios. So my apologies. So yeah, I'm Gaz, American Hammers TV. My co-host today is my good friend Celly. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Afternoon, everybody.
Excellent. And our guest today is Stelios from Irons United. Stelios, how are you doing today?
I'm good.
Oh,
I'm
no
good,
way.
lads. Yeah,
Thanks for inviting
me on.
Yeah, he's in. There we go. No, absolutely no problem. Right, so here we go. The chat is back. PJ Miller is in here. How you doing, PJ? So before we get into talking about a little bit about yourself and how you got into West Ham, whatever, just a quick mention to our sponsor. So I don't have a drinkwaredesign.com, but I do have a can of Red Bull, so I'm just going to use that as an example. Go to drinkwaredesign.com for all your customizable mug needs if you want.
I think he's frozen again.
I hope not. If he's frozen again, we're just going to have to just go with it, I'm afraid. Yes, exactly. Steve, yes, second time lucky. That's exactly right. So I feel like, man.
Dang, he might have gone again.
Dan Lawless's mum is in here. She says that she can't see me, like all of us or Stelios. Damn it. Wait, I can hear him. I can hear something.
Yeah, I can hear like moving around too.
I can hear rustling.
No, maybe not.
Oh my word! You see, I've got the chat going here. Oh, yeah, Stelios is definitely frozen.
That's wild.
So, yeah, it is. I'm just gonna remove him real quick and then invite him back in.
Okay.
In a little bit. See what happens. Oh, damn it. Stelios has had a stroke. I mean, let's hope he has not had a stroke, to be fair. Because we don't wish that on anybody. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining. Sorry that there's technical difficulties right now. We have apparently I have two Stelioses down here as well. Hopefully this one will work. I'll add him into stream and then see what happens. All right, here we go. No, he's disappeared. Hi, Penny. How you doing?
Man, that's crazy. Of all times.
It is what it is. Like I said, a normal person would get embarrassed. I'm definitely not embarrassed whatsoever.
No, nothing you can do about it.
So, all right, he's popped up in here down again. Maybe this is going to be third time lucky. Hopefully.
Coming back strong like West Ham does.
All right, here we do. All right, here we go. Are you there?
I'm really sorry, lads. It keeps breaking up. My apologies. I've checked my internet connection and it seems okay. So I don't know what's happening, lads.
Oh yeah, no, nothing to apologize for. Nothing that we could. It's just happenstance.
It is what it is. I wouldn't even worry about it. So I introduced drinkwaredesign.com with this massive 20 fluid ounce can of Red Bull. I introduced you. So for the people that don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Irons United before you disappear again.
Okay. I've been a lifetime fan, born and bred here in London. I remember my first game was a very long time ago, back in the mid-70s. I went to United about two.
Yeah, man, he's super jumpy.
Yeah. Dang, he's about to get.
Oh no, Stelios.
I know.
Dang.
Yeah.
Another one bites the dust. That's wild. Oh, there he goes.
So literally, Stelios, if you can hear me, absolutely everything
Did
that
you hear
just said.
any of that?
No, we didn't.
Heard your first game was in the 70s, and that was about it.
Yeah, that is about it. We heard first game, and then it paused, and then it said, "It's absolutely fine." 2 tin cans and a string, anyway. Steve Motherstall, that's exactly right. Man.
It's crazy because like you can hear him like moving around.
Yeah, I can hear him fidgeting around for sure. Oh, excuse me, that was very rude of me. Live on the internet, no doubt. Man, he's completely frozen again.
Yeah.
So, all right. So for right now, I think what we're going to do is I'm going to pull him out of the stream because I can't hear him anyway. And then what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about what's been happening at West Ham this week, the friendly that we had yesterday. We'll do some Hammers polls or whatever, and just try and make the most out of this awkward situation. So
sounds good.
Did you get a chance to watch the game yesterday?
Yeah, I was able to watch the whole thing. It was an unfortunate start, of course, with the own goal. It looked as if it had come off of Diop, but apparently it was Haller foot that came off. Nothing the keeper could really do about it off the deflection, as it happens. The second goal, just run a play. I think it was just poor defending in the back. But I mean, with the string of passes they put together, I don't really know if there was too much that we could have done about it. It was just good football from them. But it was nice that it kind of seemed like that second goal went in, that something clicked in the team. We started holding possession longer, getting some passes going, getting an attacking sense about it. And then obviously we got one in. 2 seconds later, we got the second one in. So it was nice to see. I think if substitutions weren't something that we had to worry about to get everybody fit, we probably could have won. Because I think after the second one, there might have been 1 or 2 more times that Bilbao was able to go forward and have an attacking sense. But I think from that point, especially in the second half before the substitutions, we were doing pretty well. But yeah, I think we're starting to see a lot more of what players are going to provide for the team as far as like their skill and their ability. I think with the new season, it doesn't matter who you are. I still think you kind of have to go out and prove it. So it was an interesting match. Unfortunate to lose on penalties, but I mean that's whatever. It doesn't really count for much anyway. So
yeah, penalties is a really shitty way to lose any type of game.
Right.
So PJ asked who the scorer was for the first goal. So the scorer for Bilbao's first goal, it was actually an own goal by Sebastian Haller. And I didn't know that until after the game. I thought it was Issa Diop that scored the own goal. It was basically a ball that came in from the corner and he went to swing his foot at it and just sliced it into the back of the net. Right, so Stelios is back. We're going to try him again.
Right, now I've moved this to another laptop. So let's hope this one's better.
It already looks way better, if I'm honest.
Good. Okay.
All right.
Did you get anything of what I said?
No, not really, to be fair.
Not really, not really.
Okay. I'll give you a quick rundown. I've been a lifelong fan, born and raised in London. Never actually lived in the East End, but West Ham became my team when I was a very young age. I started going to West Ham bowling ground in the mid-70s. Yeah, I'm that old. And I've supported them. Thank you. I've supported them all my life. I got involved with Irons United about 1.5 years ago. Anton used to see I used to rant online whenever I used to see anything about West Ham. And he kind of liked my rants. And so he invited me to do a show or two. And I've been with them ever since, a couple of years. It's been quite good fun, seeing the group develop, seeing how we've built up our subscribers. It's good fun, all good fun.
Yeah, so I saw, like I said before we went live, I've literally seen a couple of videos. This whole like YouTube thing is very new to me, so I wasn't aware of if it wasn't like West Ham Fan TV or anything. I wasn't really too aware of how many fan groups there actually are.
Yeah.
But yeah, your videos are they're very clear, very well spoken, they're very knowledgeable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
No, absolutely not. Nice. And you don't look. How old did you say you were? You didn't actually say how old you was, but
I ain't going to tell you.
nah, that's fine. You look for however old you are. You look very good. So we'll just we'll
It's
leave
the
it there.
Mediterranean. It's the Mediterranean blood. That's what it does. That's what it does.
Yeah. So your name's Stelios. You
Yeah.
said it came from Cyprus.
Yeah, my parents are from Cyprus. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Nice.
and there aren't that many West Ham fans in Cyprus. They're all Spurs fans or Arsenal fans, I'm afraid.
Oh,
well,
wow.
you know, nobody's perfect, so
Exactly.
it's all
Start
good.
the revolution.
So when you were switching to your other laptop, we briefly, Celly and I just started talking about the game yesterday. Were you able to watch it or go or anything like that?
I was there. It was the first pre-season I'd been to, and I'll tell you, lads, we forget the number of goals that are scored against us. We're going to be scoring a hell of a lot of goals against other teams. We look good. We look good going forward. It's quite exciting for it. You know, pre-season friendlies are usually quite boring. They can tend to be quite boring. But the first half was excellent, and I mean there were a lot of changes made in the second half, as there have been in most pre-season games, and it kind of killed it a little bit. But the first half, the players that we had on that pitch, you know, I'm going to salivate, lads. It's going to be a really good season.
Yeah, no, I think with the attack that we have built, it will be threatening, especially you know, for kind of the mid to low level table teams, I should say, that, you know, don't have necessarily the pace to keep up.
Yeah.
You know, and I think one thing that's really interesting too is just how much so far in the couple games they played, how Fornals and Heller have linked up together. You know, I think they'll prove to be worth, you know, what we spent for them. So that'll be.
Well, people are saying that Fornals is likely to be the next £100 million midfielder. You know, and that could. I mean, if he continues the way he seems to have done. You know, he played in the under-23 championships for Spain.
I think it's U21.
Under-21s, and he did well there.
Yeah.
And you know, he looks good in pre-season. Who knows? I mean, what is he on a 5-year contract, something like that?
Yeah.
So, you know, I think what Huselos and Pellegrini are doing finally is what we've needed in the transfers for a long time, where they're buying young talent, you know, giving them long contracts. And then if they do well, we can sell them for a healthy profit. If the whole team does well, no need to sell them because we'll be doing well as a team.
Right.
So yeah, Sin and Allaire, apparently not Haller, Allaire is looks brilliant. I mean, the way he holds up the ball, I'll tell you, lads, it's going to be one hell of a good season. It's going to be an interesting season.
Yeah, knock on wood, everybody stays healthy.
Yeah.
Speaking of the hold-up play that you were just talking about, that is something that we have lacked for many years. Like Arnautovic was good at what he did. He gave you a lot of energy. He gave you like running and stuff like that, pressure on the defense. Both of our goals yesterday came directly from Allaire's hold-up play. Obviously, the first one, he had the ball on the edge of the box. He crossed it in, and then it was Fornals that had the bicycle kick assist, right?
Yeah, the bicycle assist.
I'm sure it was meant to be an assist, and it wasn't an effort at goal.
Let's say it was.
Yeah, we'll just say that it was. And then the second goal came from a nothing ball, which was put out towards the touchline. Allaire chased it down, held it up well, waited for people to arrive in the box. Went past his man and put the ball to the edge of the area, and Jack Wilshere was there to finish with his first goal. So that is something that we've definitely missed.
It is, because you look at a lot of people, you know, kind of liked Arnautovic, but Arnautovic was never a natural striker. So he didn't quite always know the runs to make, and he wasn't always that good at necessarily holding the ball up, like a natural striker knows. And Allaire does that naturally, But I think you've just touched on it, guys. If we get a couple of injuries, God, I don't even want to think it before the season starts. But
touch some wood real quick.
It's the backup that I'm worried about, because if Allaire goes out injured for a while, we then don't have a player like him that's going to hold the ball up the way he does.
I agree.
But he was immense. And I think, and I've said it in the show that I'm putting out tonight, the Gomez transfer might have been a bit of a blessing in disguise for us, because I don't know if Gomez would be anywhere as good at holding the ball up and bringing other players into the game as Allaire seems to be. So could be a blessing in disguise.
I agree, 100%.
For as young as he is, he's definitely very confident with his ability. Granted, we haven't really played. He hasn't played against really top tier Premier League teams just yet. But from what we've seen, I don't think there's any reason to doubt that he won't be able to put in that same effort, against the Man Cities, Uniteds and teams like that.
You think Allaire played in the Europa Cup, or whatever you call it nowadays, and they played against Chelsea, and he gave them quite a torrid time, so he's had a taste of it, against a fairly reasonable team. Chelsea went on to win that cup, and he was good there. So I think I think the style of play that you have in Germany really helps you to adapt into the Premier League game pretty quickly.
Very similar styles.
Yeah, so he's suited for the Premier League, and I agree with you, Celly. I think he's gonna do really well against some of the teams most of the teams in the Premier League. Absolutely.
Yeah, one thing I was telling guys yesterday, we were having a conversation about it. Is I think one thing that he brings that we haven't had for a while, is consistently, is he looks to be like a big physical guy, and we, even yesterday, Gary had mentioned, we haven't been that consistent against physical teams, and it showed yesterday. But it looked as if, Allaire with his pace and his size, that he's not going to be one to be easily bullied off the ball. Yeah, so that's nice to see.
Yeah, I agree. I think what Pellegrini's setting the team up to do is to start defending from the front, and Allaire would be the first point of defence in a way. So when we don't have the ball, it's all about, we're going to be closing down, pressing, so that when it does, get to the defence, hopefully all they have to do is just sweep the ball away, because our defence is a little bit weak, let's say.
Speaking of the defence, I wanted to get your opinion on why you think that is, because it's basically, we did concede a lot of goals last season, but Diop and Balbuena have a very strong partnership, which they had for most of the whole of last season. Why do you think there are so many gaps at the moment in our defence?
I think it's coming down the flanks, to be honest with you. I think Diop and Balbuena will get good again. They've been a bit rusty in pre-season, and I put that down to, Balbuena's been on international duty. He's only just come back the last couple of games or so. Diop just doesn't look comfortable with any other central defender. No. He doesn't look comfortable with Ogbonna. It's too early to say what Reed is going to be like, whether he's ever going to be as good as we once knew him to be. Yeah. So I've got no fear about Diop, Balbuena becoming that central force again. It's just going to take a bit of time. They just need to get rid of the rustiness. But my concern is more on the right back and the left back. I think Fredericks is a good player, and he's getting better, but he just needs to start being consistent. Yeah. The young Ben Johnson looks an absolute massive prospect, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts pushing Fredericks for that right back slot throughout the season, because Zabaleta is going to be there more as a cameo role than anything else.
Yeah, which it's unfortunate, but I think he'll be a passenger for the most of this season, to be honest.
And I think he accepts that. I think he knows that. So I don't think he's got, and it's good to have Zabaleta there in the squad because he's got so much knowledge that both Fredericks and Johnson can pick up from. But my real concern is left back. If you look at certainly the game yesterday, and certainly the first goal against Hertha Berlin on Wednesday, that came, a lot of the attacks were coming down our left side. And teams know that that's our weak spot. Because Cresswell, ever since he got that big injury, about 3 seasons ago, has not been the player that we once knew. And Masuaku, well, he's the Marmite of left backs. Some people love him, some people hate him, and I know he's just got himself a massive. He's hit the jackpot, hasn't he? Getting a 5-year extension on his contract, but I just don't think he's a. I just don't think he's a left back, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he kind of seems more of a winger player with his style of pace and his willingness to go forward. That we just kind of just let's put you back there.
Yeah, absolutely. But unfortunately, Pellegrini doesn't play a wing back system. And there's no way that Masuaku is going to take Anderson's place.
Oh, no.
I hope not.
Who primarily doesn't really play as a left back.
You see, the contract extension for Masuaku took me by complete surprise. I don't think anybody knew about it, and it just popped up. Oh, yeah, we've signed Masuaku to a long-term deal. Personally, I don't think he's a left back. I think he is much better going forward. I would love to see at some point if we brought in a new left back, or if Ben Johnson or somebody came through and started playing there, if we could put Masuaku left wing and possibly move Anderson out to the right-hand side, because I feel like Pellegrini is going to stick with the 4-2-3-1 formation. And I would love to see Masuaku in one of those attacking roles. What do you guys think?
Personally, it would sacrifice a decent midfielder to do that, because we've got quite a large number of attack-minded midfielders now. Interestingly, what you said about Anderson moving to the right, he started on the right yesterday, and but between him, Lanzini, and Fornals, they kept switching for formation. So 1 minute you'd have Lanzini on the left, next minute it'd be Anderson on the left, and then someone out on the right, etc. So they kept switching between them. They did really well in that respect. But if you put Masuaku further forward, you're going to have to sacrifice one of those 3 players. And if you think about the players that we have behind them in the pecking order, Yarmolenko, Antonio, Snodgrass, there's quite a number of natural midfielders that you could replace any of those first 3 with. And I'm sorry, guys, I'm not a Masuaku fan, mate. I really ain't. I don't think he's any better going forward than he is as a defender. I think it's a little bit. It's a bit of a. People talk about how great Masuaku is going forward, but if you look at his stats over the time he's been at West Ham, he hasn't really assisted in that many goals. So it's a little bit. He's great. He looks great going forward because we love a flair player.
Which is what my point was. I feel like he's better. I'm not saying he is great going forward. He just looks better going forward than he is at defending.
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus Cresswell isn't really that good at going forward, but seems to be able to defend a little bit better than what Masuaku can.
Yeah. But, if you could morph those 2 into one player, you've got a perfect left back.
I actually said that in the Discord when the Discord first started. I said if we could combine the 2 of them, you'd have a great player. We could call him Arthon Kresaku. It's the same. It's the same with Fredericks and Zabaleta. If you could put Fredericks' pace and youth in Zabaleta's body, you would have the perfect right back.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing I noticed, I was watching your previous West Ham Weekly. I think might have been 2 weeks ago, Stelios, and you were talking about similar things with Zabaleta and the defense as far as the depth is concerned. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain on who would be your starting back four, and if you'd go with one or two central defenders, as far as Rice and Noble in them, and if you did go with two, who would you start in those positions as well?
I'd actually, you know what? I'd actually start with Fredericks, Diop, Balbuena, and Johnson as left back, and Wilshere and Declan Rice as the holding midfielders, because I think that would actually Johnson.
Oh, don't do it. He's going to come back.
Right. Yeah. Dang.
You know, right.
Oh man.
So
that's what I would do. I'd play Johnson over Creswell or Masuaku.
So I can't lie, Stelios. Once you were getting right into the meat of what you were saying about Johnson, you cut out again. So
oh no,
I don't know. So I don't.
look,
would you mind kind of repeating what you had just said?
sure, okay. I said I would start with Fredericks, Diop, Balbuena, and Johnson as left back. I would go with Rice and Wiltshire in holding midfield. And I was saying about Johnson, let's not underestimate him, because he might be young, but the fact that he can actually play on the left as well as on the right is a
very
major
beneficial.
bonus for us.
Very beneficial.
And I actually, at this moment in time, from what I've seen of him in pre-season, I would honestly prefer him to either Creswell or Masuaku as a left back, to be honest. But I think Creswell will be the starter, because if you've noticed, he's had the captain's armband in no absence for the last two games. You know, so all this thing about Masuaku getting this long contract, people think he's automatically first choice. I'm not so sure about that. And maybe, you know, what you guys were saying, you know, Masuaku looks better going forward. I think possibly Pellegrini might use the team in an American football style way. He'll start certain players for certain games. So
Right.
he might want to have Masuaku on against a team that is a bit afraid of the pace. And then maybe have Creswell as a more solid defender when we're playing the likes of, I don't know, City and teams like that.
We should, when we play City, we just need to build a couple of brick walls and a couple of buses. To be honest, just put them in front of the goal. So, one question I had for you. This was something I was talking to my dad about the other day. All the friendlies that we've had, we haven't looked very, very good initially defensively. And the majority of the games, Roberto has been in goal. And I'm going to say it right now, I'm not a fan of Roberto whatsoever. When Fabianski plays in goal, and you look last season, you look back to last season, the defenders that were in front of him, so we'll just say Creswell, Balbuena, Zabaleta, and Diop, right? They have a keeper behind them that they're comfortable with. Do you feel like the players are not comfortable with Roberto being behind them? I know that's like a shitty thing to say, but do you think that?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I think they just need to get to know Roberto's game.
Yeah,
because he doesn't come with a too bad a reputation. You know, he's a solid keeper. He's not an outstanding keeper. He's a solid keeper. And it's interesting because the first few friendlies that he played whilst Fabianski was sort of being rested, he looked all right, you know, and then he had not a very good game against Berlin. He didn't look that good at all, and he got slated for it on an awful lot of social media sites.
yeah.
And then ironically, against Bilbao yesterday, even though they scored 2 goals and they won on penalties, and I know it's going to sound a bit odd, but he didn't have much to do, apart from kicking the ball out of the net, you know. And so we didn't really get a full glimpse of him. He wasn't really. They had 2 chances. Well, Allaire scored 1 for them, and they scored another. But they had 2 chances, and that was really it. You know, so he didn't really get properly tested. He did against the Berlin, and he didn't sort of come out with flying colours. But I just think it's a matter of, you know, yeah, we've had the pre-season friendlies, but you know, those guys need to play a few more weeks together before they really understand each other's game. You know, and I know time is now no longer on our side because the Premier League starts next week. But
Yeah.
I think he'll be okay. I think he'll be okay. He won't be
See,
outstanding, and we've come to rely on Fabianski for being absolutely superb. That anything else just seems crap, really, doesn't it?
yeah, it does seem that way.
Do you think some of Roberto's woes, if you will, have kind of been a factor of the fact that our defense, or our back line rather, hasn't been performing at such a high level? Because I mean, I think there might be only so much that he can do if he's, if they're
Well,
constantly getting through.
really good point, because if you remember some seasons back when we had Randolph and Adrian competing for the goalie slot, and there was one season, I think it was the first season of the new stadium, where they kept being chopped and changed. 1 minute, Randolph got a run in the team, and then it was Adrian, then it was Randolph again, etc. And a lot of fans were saying then that it was down to more about the defence not helping the goalie out than it was the goalies themselves. And you got a point there. You know, I think once our defence becomes settled, and once I think the team knows who the starting back four are going to be, because I still think, apart from central defence, like I said, still think there's some debate about right back and left back. Once the team knows, I think that will settle them, and then they'll start to gel better.
Yeah.
And we've seen quite a lot of experiments in pre-season. You know, Johnson playing at left back, Johnson playing at right back. Ogbonna's played with Diop. Diop's played with Reed. You know, quite a few mixes really. But I think the last two games has given us a bit of an insight that really our back four is going to be Fredericks, Diop, Balbuena, and actually Creswell. I don't think it should be Creswell, but I think Pellegrini will pick Creswell. And I think
Yeah.
once that's settled, yeah, you're absolutely right. It would actually help the keeper a lot more, definitely.
Yeah, no, and I think just consistently through the lineup, period. Not just the defense, but wingers. I kind of have a feeling that the front four is pretty much picked. Honestly, obviously, you're going to have Hilaire up front. Anderson, that's a no-brainer. Lanzini, I think he's earned his starting spot again, and Fornals. I think the four of them, especially with what they did yesterday and against Berlin, I don't really think that there is any reason to not have them start. I think there will be certain games where you might have Yarmolenko start, or Diangana, just depending on who we're playing. But I think once there's consistency, because obviously Fabianski, that's picked, Rice, that's picked, Diab and Balbuena, I think those are no-brainers. But just like how you're saying, once it's the wingers are sorted out, or I'm sorry, the right and left back are sorted out, I think it'll benefit a lot.
Absolutely, I agree. Can I throw a question at you guys?
Of course.
Noble, Wiltshire's playing out. Wiltshire's playing out of his skin at the moment, and I tell you what, lads, if he stays fit, he's going to be our player of the season. So where does that leave Mark Noble?
I'll let you go.
Yeah, I'll go first because I know.
Did you hear that?
Gaz. Yeah, I could hear the echo.
You just blew my ears apart, to be honest with you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I'll go first. I think, and this would go for any player on any team, that no matter how much you bleed the colors of that squad, if there's somebody who plays your position and does it better, then they'll start. Because I mean, don't get me wrong, there will be certain games, any of the London derbies, and maybe a handful of top six that you probably should start Mark Noble.
Yeah.
But I think there's things that Wilshere provides that Noble can't. I think that goal yesterday, that kind of shows. Even though, I guess to be fair, a couple seasons ago, Noble had a brilliant goal against Leicester off the volley.
I was there for that game too.
Oh, nice. But I don't think he's that big of a threat offensively going forward. But I do think that Noble does bring a certain attitude about him that players will try to play at his level, no matter who they're playing against. But I think Wilshere is just he's just better. So I think you just have to start him just because of that.
Yeah, agreed. What about you, Gaz? What do you think?
So this is like the third show in a row where Mark Noble has been brought up in conversation. Now, just for the record again, like, I do not hate Mark Noble, but for me, if I was picking the team and I had like held like all my midfielders were fit, Mark Noble would never play for me, like ever. He would play. So yes, that's a lie. Yesterday is a perfect example as for a game that Mark Noble could have played in. Mark Noble is the type of person you need in a game where teams are physical. Teams like Burnley and people like that. Like, you need somebody in there who has that same physicality, if that makes sense. Like, they're going to get involved as much. But there are a lot of games where Mark Noble is definitely not needed, and the team is kind of not necessarily like sacrificed for him to play. But I just feel like there are games where he should play and games where he shouldn't play. And Jack Wilshere, if he stays fit, is 100% going to be the person that sits next to Declan Rice in the middle.
Absolutely. Well, mate, you'd be pleased to hear I'm in agreement with you. I have an awful lot of arguments about Mark Noble.
So do I, man. Me and my dad all the time.
Because I think what you guys have said is absolutely right. Is, you know, all this stuff about he's a local boy, etc., etc. Yeah, you get all that because he's going to bring something to the team that no one else can. Yeah. But I agree. Technically, you know, there are better midfielders in our squad, especially now. You know, with Wilshire's like a new signing in a way. You know, if he stays fit, like a new signing. You know, with Fornals coming in, etc. And I'm in agreement. I think there are certain games that Mark Noble can influence, and I think he'll influence more from the bench than he will as a starter. And there might be the odd game, you know, when we play Spurs and we need to beat them 1-0 at their ground, he'll probably play that game, you know, stuff like that.
100%.
You know. Yeah. I was listening to the West Ham Way podcast. I believe it was the most recent one, or the one where Nikki from West Ham Fan TV was on. And I believe the host had mentioned if Wilshere stays fit, then he is arguably the best player on the team, you know, from his experience and the level of play that he brings, that it's, you know, he's easily top 1 or 2 players on the team, and you can't really argue that.
Absolutely. I mean, he's the most technically gifted English player we have, you know, that doesn't get to make the England team because of his injuries, right. You know, and if he continues,
justified.
Yeah, which I totally agreed. But if he continues and if he stays fit, I mean, he'll get back into the England squad, and he'll bring a completely different way of playing because he is technically gifted. And
right.
There's no player in the West Ham team that is as good as him technically, you know. But we've got a few that are close, you know, like Fornals is going to be. Pretty decent himself.
He looks classy, man. He looks so elegant and so classy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there if you were going to say something.
Oh no, you're good. Do you have the chat room open?
I do not. No.
All right, so we're a little bit past the halfway mark, but we did start a little bit late. So usually what we do is we'll go into the chat room and acknowledge people that are in there. Actually, Stelios, Irons United are in here. There was a question that was put up here a little while ago. I'm going to find it and put it up on the screen for you, and then you can answer.
Okay. From them?
Yeah, it's from them. And this is for you.
You'll
be able to see it on the screen.
His love for Ogbonna. That's Anthony.
Yeah.
And I've already, you see, Ant and I have this banter about who's the better defender, Reed or Ogbonna. And my argument is, well, at least Ogbonna's been available for selection, you know, so it kills that argument. No, I know.
Yeah.
I liked Ogbonna when he first came to West Ham, and I thought he was solid. But it's funny, you know, I said to you guys before we went on live, I finished filming my weekly show for tonight.
Yeah.
And I talked about Ogbonna, you know, and I think his time's up in the Premier League. I think he should return to Italy where the game is slower. He's better there than he is for a fast-paced Premier League. And I'm sure you're listening. I admit Ogbonna's time's up. When are you going to admit that Reed's time's up?
I don't know. Well, he's in the comments down there, so maybe he'll if he messages you back, I'll post it up on the thing.
All right, mate. Cool.
All right, so a question. So let me run through the chat real quick and just hello to people. So PJ Miller was in, Steve Mother Soul, Dan Lawless's mum Penny is here. Hello Penny, how you doing? Steve Hunt, Mark Noon. He was in here for the first one that started, and then we had to end it and then restart it. I'm not sure if he's still in here or not. Who else do we got? Ken McGuire's in here. Dun, dun, dun. Gabe, what's up, Gabe? Kent Hammers. Neil from Down Under is always in here.
Yeah.
I don't think
Neil. I know Neil. Yeah, he comments an awful lot on my shows.
He does. He's in every single
well.
one of them. Neil from Down Under. He is literally always in here. Ben Davis, how you doing? Oh, my chat froze for a second there.
I did have one more question that I think both of you guys, I'm actually real curious to hear your opinion on, if you don't mind. So since the preseason is over, we played all our matches. Premier League starts next week. Is there one player on the team who has impressed you the most, and is there one player on the team who you think hasn't lived up to starting yet?
Ooh, okay, that's impressed me the most. Well, I think it's either it's a choice between Johnson or Wilshere. You know, but I guess because we kind of know that Wilshere can do it, I then have to go for Johnson. You know, he's been for a young player, and like I said earlier, you know, being able to play in either position, right back or left back, and looking so composed. I've got to say that he's probably been the most impressive for me. In terms of who's been most disappointing, if you look at the whole squad, I'm going to have to go for Josh Cullen, I'm afraid. Josh Cullen had this great opportunity off the back of last season when he was loaned out to Charlton. He had this great opportunity to step it up and demonstrate that he could be one of the squad players in the first team squad. And in my mind, I don't think he's made it. I don't think he's done enough to merit it. And it's going to be quite interesting because Cullen's in his last year of his contract, and he's either going to languish in the under-23s, he's either going to be loaned out, or he's going to be sold. Because you know, we've got quite a few players actually who are still in the last year of their contracts who can just walk away for nothing, and Cullen's one of them. And
isn't Lanzini one of them too?
Lanzini is also another, mate. Yeah, Lanzini and Javier Hernandez as well. They're all in their last year of their contracts, and you know, we've done well. We've pinned down quite a few of the players. We've either sold them, or because I think there were about 11 players in their last year. We've either sold them or we've extended their contracts, like Snodgrass, Masuaku, etc. But there are a few players that still need to be sorted out, and the big names are Hernandez and Lanzini. But yeah, the most disappointing player, I'm afraid, has been Cullen. He just hasn't done it, I'm afraid.
Gary, what about you?
So the question was who's the most exciting and who's the most disappointing?
Yeah.
So actually, on Hammer's polls, I'll have to skip this question because what you asked is basically this same question that I have here. So we'll get to Hammer's polls in a second. So for me, the player I'm most excited about this season, I've got to say Fornals, to be honest. It's nice to have Allaire as a brand new striker, but I'm excited for Fornals, man. He looks very tasty. Player that I'm disappointed with is probably going to be Marcus Brown, who we sold to Middlesbrough last week. I had a little bit of high expectations for Marcus Brown. There was rave reviews about him from his loan spells and when he was in the under-21s, under-23s and stuff. And I was a little disappointed that we sold him. But if Pellegrini doesn't think that he's good enough, it's the same thing with Cullen, though. Do you think it's that the players aren't good enough, or it's the fact that we're buying better players for our midfield. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think the players aren't good enough because Pellegrini's always been renowned for giving youth an opportunity, and Johnson is a prime example. Diangana, even though he was sort of there or thereabouts before, he's allowed, he's given them the opportunity to push on. Declan Rice, obviously, but yeah, you could argue again he was there before Pellegrini. And we've got another couple of players. We've got Nathan Holland that we keep hearing about, and Joe Powell that we keep hearing about that might just break into the first team squad. And my understanding is, as Pellegrini watches or gets to know an awful lot about what's going on with the under-23s, don't forget he's pulled them together to train alongside the team squad and stuff like that. So I don't think it's because of us just buying, what's
better players.
I just think some of these players, unfortunately, Cullen, as I said, is a prime example. Took him out to China. Played him, gave him an opportunity to shine, and he just didn't do it. So I think Pellegrini gives young players a massive chance to prove what they can do. And no, Brown's an interesting one because I thought Brown was one of the up and coming stars.
I did.
It seems that that's not been the case, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny you say that too about he gives the youth the opportunity because to start Johnson in his first game away to City, that I think that definitely says a lot about what he thought about him as a young player. 19, and he played pretty well too.
Absolutely.
He obviously I'm sure there were some nerves there, as anybody would have for their first game being away to the champions. But that being said, I think it also gave him a boost of confidence to know that he was going to start against City, because I know when the lineup came out, I think everybody was kind of confused, like why him of all people for this
Who's
game?
he and why is he? Why him?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm gonna go for a couple of hammers polls real quick, and then I actually don't have 10 quick fire questions, so we're just gonna blag it and make up our own questions.
That's fine.
Got a good one.
If you have any questions as well, you can spit them out, and we'll just go in a little trifecta of questions, and we can just go from there.
Same for the chat. If you got any questions,
chat. If you have any questions too, be sure to throw them in there for the quick fire questions. So this hammers poll here is: which start of the season under Pellegrini have you been most excited about? Last season or this season? We'll go Stelios first.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
I'll go. I'll definitely say this season. I think last season, I think the most exciting part about it was the fact that we had Pellegrini. But I think this season, Pellegrini and Anderson. But I think this season, we've seen the high spots of what Pellegrini can do. I think last year at home to Manchester United was a big one. At home, pretty much at home against all the top six. I mean, we played really well against them, and even a handful of away games. But now we have Fornals. We've seen what he can do. We have Heller, and we've seen what he can do, and we've seen what the attack can do. So I think it'll be exciting more so this season. But I think too, people kind of know that we might score a lot of goals, but we might concede a lot as well, at least maybe for the start. But I think if you're giving up 4 but you're scoring 5, I think people will be okay with that.
Oh yeah, sure. It's interesting because I was really excited last season, Pellegrini's first season, and all the players that we bought, and I think what dampened it was the first 4 games when reality hit home and we walked away with no points.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of with you, Celly. I think this season is a much more exciting prospect. It's Pellegrini's second season with the players or at the club. Anderson's had a year to get used to it. Fornals, Aller, all these players. And the way they played yesterday kind of leads me to believe it is going to be an exciting season. I agree with you. If Watford or whatever scores 3, we're going to score 4. If Leicester scores 2, we're going to score 3. And
Right.
if that carries on all season, it's going to be one hell of an exciting. It's going to be one hell of an exciting season, I tell you.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm going to make it 3 for 3 because I'm excited mostly for this season. We saw bits of last season what Pellegrini's trying to do with the club and the team, and he's been able to, even though he added some of the players that he wanted last season, he's really been able to go after a couple of the targets he was looking for this season. So, and you can see that in the way that we attack. In the games that we've played, like these are definitely signings. They're not like Sullivan signings. They're definitely Pellegrini signings. So I'm excited for this season more than anything. So that's a 3 for 3. So the next question: who will be the hammer of the year for this season? Fabianski, Declan Rice, Sebastian Haller, or Fabian Balbuena? Or if you want to throw any other name in there, you can go.
Wow.
I said it earlier. If Wilshere stays fit, it's going to be Wilshere.
Okay.
I stick to that. You know, if he stays fit, it'll be Wilshere.
Right,
if he doesn't, it's going to be Fornals.
What about you, Stelios?
That's a good one. I think it'll probably be Haller, and I say that because you and me kind of were talking about this yesterday. I think he'll, get the goals that he needs to get, but I also think that his ability on the ball will open it up for other players to get a lot of goals as well. I think we'll have, and I know you don't necessarily have to be hammer of the year just because you score a lot of goals, but I think, I was telling him he's played in 3 games and he has 5 assists and a goal, and that's pretty incredible. So just his ability to shoot and distribute, I think, will go a long way into opening it up for, the attack and the midfield that we have behind him, Lanzini, everybody, Yarmolenko, all them, it'll open it up. And I think, he could easily be up there for Golden Boot, or he could easily be up there for, top assist man, or in the conversation anyway. So I think just what he brings will kind of shine.
Good points. Yeah.
I'm going to go for Felipe Anderson. I feel like he's going to have he had a good season in the Premier League last season. He was just feeling it out. There were games where he looked ridiculous, and there were games where he looked a little bit lost. I feel like this year is going to have a better understanding of how the Premier League works and the pace of it and the physicality of some teams. I think he's going to be better equipped for it this year. So I feel like he's going to have a very good season.
It's interesting that, we have so many choices where maybe in past seasons we might, most people might say the same player, but like we've all said three different players here, and you can, all for very good reason.
Oh, don't do it.
Would have got it last season, so I think that makes it even more
that's
exciting.
true.
We've got so many players that we can look at and go, that player's going to make a difference this season. And Anderson's a good call because you're absolutely right. He's, second season in the Premier League. He now knows what it's like. He can really push on. Absolutely. But Haller's just as good. You make good points there. I didn't realise he did 5 assists. He's only played, what, 3 games?
3 games.
3 games, yeah. It's about 4 or 5 assists,
5 assists, and I mean, you can count it as 2 goals. I mean, own goals count, I suppose. As long as they're in friendly games. All right, so this, I wasn't going to do one, but this is a good question. This will be the last Hammers poll of the day. Who was the biggest pain in the arse? Dimitri Payet, Marko Arnautovic, Jermaine Defoe, or Reece Oxford? I'm assuming this is who was the biggest pain in the arse and then eventually left the club. So out of those, Payet, Arnautovic, Defoe, or Oxford?
I think Arnautovic, it was a lot of it was just his brother. He just didn't kind of rebuff what his brother said. So not him. I think, honestly, I'd probably have to go with Reece Oxford just because I think there was a certain point maybe he felt he was deserved to play in the top squad. and he had his chances, but kind of how Stelios was saying earlier, excuse me, yeah, I don't think he took full advantage of those opportunities, and then he wanted to go out on loan, send him on loan, came back. I mean, he was with the team for preseason, but I mean, he still didn't do anything, So I don't know. I think for me, it'd be him. Good luck to him in the future. Where I think he's in Germany now. I don't wish any foul against any player, who doesn't want to play for West Ham. But I think it'd be him just because the other players, they came in and they did their thing. They were proven, but Reece Oxford wasn't. I don't think you can really sit here and say, "Oh man, you remember that Reece Oxford moment?" There isn't one. So
except for
I
his
think for
debut,
him,
that was basically it.
Yeah.
Yeah. True. Yeah.
What about you, Stelios?
I've got to go for Arnautovic, because even though it was his brother, Arnautovic could have stopped him and he didn't, and
No
I
smoke
think,
without fire.
yeah, I just think the way he behaved, look at the way Pedro Obiang behaved when, he wanted to be transferred out of the team for over a season and a half, 2 seasons, because he wasn't comfortable in London, in England. He wanted to go back to Italy. But he never once complained. He never once moaned. He never once threw his toys out the pram. He left with saying a beautiful farewell to all the West Ham fans, and how he'd love to come back again in the future, etc., etc. And then you look at Arnautovic and the arsehole that he was. Am I allowed to swear? Sorry, I've done it.
Oh, of course.
And just his, the attitude, his brother's attitude, and yeah, we all thought, well, it was his brother, but we kind of realised at the beginning of this pre-season that Arnautovic himself was just as bad as his brother. They were in cahoots, That he's,
of course they were.
they were just as bad as, yeah. But and they just what I think upset me most about Arnautovic was last winter when he was out injured throughout December. We had a really good run of games. I don't think we lost a game or whatever in December. He came back and he was sniffing around getting back into the first team. Then all the transfer rumours started, and he was disruptive there. And then from that moment on, our season kind of went, a bit downhill. And I know a lot of people will say, well, you can't just blame it on one player, but I am, because I think Arnautovic really disrupted us badly last season. He threw us off our stride when we could have actually pressed on, and we could have actually maybe done an awful lot. I mean, when you think how close we were to maybe 7th spot and getting Europe, and I know a lot of people will say, well, we weren't ready for Europe, but we were close. And some of the games that we lost, I think, were down to his attitude, which affected the squad. And for that, I can't forgive the guy. And I'm so glad he's gone. So glad.
I agree with you, but I'm going to choose. For me personally, I'm going to choose Dimitri Payet. And literally, the only reason that I choose Payet is, one, I loved Dimitri Payet. He was so class. I have never seen a free kick as good as the free kick he scored against Crystal Palace. The most beautiful free kick I've ever seen in my life. It was. I literally watched it one day like 30 times at work. Rewinded it back. But the reason that I'm pissed off about him is because when I first moved to New Mexico, I bought we didn't buy him. We got him for free, actually. The ugliest little fucking dog you've ever seen in your life. He's like a Shih Tzu Yorkie Poodle mixture. And I named him Dimmy, After Dimitri Payet. And now Payet left, and I'm stuck with this ugly ass dog called Dimmy. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Dimitri Payet.
That poor dog. Did he get fed?
Yeah, he gets fed like small servings though. So, Celly, would you like to bust out a few quick fire questions for Stelios?
Yeah. So one that I was thinking yesterday. So if you're Manuel Pellegrini, right, and the board came to you with a blank check and said you could buy anybody in the world that's not named Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, who would you buy?
Oh, that's hard. I don't know. I tell you what, and I can't remember his name. The left back that plays for Valencia. Damn it, don't remember his name. I'll look it up and I'll send you the name. But there's a guy that plays for Valencia. If Anthony's watching, I think he might know the name that we've actually discussed in our chat group. Who's a very decent player, So there you go. No one that famous, but there you go. Someone famous, I can't remember his bloody name.
Right. Hey, it's cool. I mean, he would fill a need. It doesn't have to be a high-profile player. I mean, a few years ago, I would have said Sergio Ramos. To be honest, just I really like how he plays. I mean, he gets red carded a lot, but I think he definitely he is one player that you can for sure say plays for the badge and not himself. And I don't know. I like he's an attacking guy. He gets forward, he gets back, and he doesn't mess around. I'm not sure if that'll be my answer now. But yeah, I'm not sure who I would choose now. To be 100% honest with you, maybe Pulisic, just because he's American. It'd be nice to have an American who plays really well for the team. But I'm not sure because midfield is not a problem for us.
Someone's just said the name Gaia. Valencia.
Yeah. Okay.
Gaia.
I think that's Gaia, if I'm honest. I like that pronunciation better. Gaia.
Yeah, but Ramos is a good call, though. I mean, you could see, but I guess we have to be realistic with West Ham. And if you buy such a class player, would a player like that ever want to stay if we ever got him? But,
Right, so we'll do some super quick questions. I'll try and remember them off the top of my head. So steak pie or apple pie?
Say that again.
Steak pie or apple pie?
Oh well, my other half is trying to make me go vegetarian, so I'm going to have to say apple pie.
Congratulations. Any player from West Ham's past or present that epitomises West Ham United?
Say that again. I lost that. Sorry.
All right. Any player from West Ham's past or present that completely epitomises who West Ham are?
Well, I love flair players, so I'm going to say Alan Devonshire.
Oh, what a great answer. I don't think we've had that.
That's the first. Yeah, that's the first.
I don't think we've had that so far. What other questions does Wayne have?
Go
on.
What's one player in the current squad that frustrates you the most?
Oh. Masuaku.
Yeah, I think his name was brought up a few times. It's Antonio personally for me.
Well, I think Antonio's improved. I used to really, really slate Antonio an awful lot, and the season that he's just had has been probably one of his best ones. I would have agreed with you before, but for me, it's by long distance Masuaku. Oh, and for Anthony, if he's still watching, Winston Reid, because he's never fit.
I'm not sure if he's still in here.
Oh well, I'll record it and send it to him.
I have a question. If you could punch any former manager in the face, who would it be?
David Moyes.
David Moyes.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And before him, Lou Macari. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, that is a very long time ago. Mine would be Avram Grant.
Oh yeah, Fuck me. How did I forget him? Avram Grant.
I couldn't do it to Zola, man. He's a lovely little man. It'd be like beating up a child.
Well, Zola kept us. Avram took us down.
Yeah. What about Glenn Roeder?
Oh well, yeah. We've had some really bad managers, haven't we?
We have had some bad, and then Sam Allardyce is in there as well. I mean, Sam had some good stuff. He did some good stuff. But anyway, so I can't remember any more of the quick fire questions off the top of my head, and we are already at it's 1:11, so 8:11 for you guys. I think is it 10 past 8 for you right now?
10 past 8, 11, yeah, past 8, yeah.
All right. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we go off air?
I think we should all really look forward to the season. It's going to be really exciting. If we play the way we played the last few friendlies, we are going to attack and attack and attack again. because we're not going to be defending that much. And I think it's going to be great. Thank you guys for letting me come on. It's been good, apart from the first 10 minutes where I can get my laptop to work.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. It was definitely interesting. A lot of fun. Thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure listening to you talk, listen to your views on the club and stuff. We share a lot of common interests, so it's pretty good. Thank you to Celly for being my emergency co-host today. And I was supposed to be the co-host, but I've been promoted to host for today. So thank you, Tim and Wayne, for that. That was awesome. Thank you for everybody that came into the chat. And just one more quick thing before we do the old "Come on, you Irons." Thanks for everybody that voted for the scarf designs. So number 3 was the winner. And if you want to pre-order any of or that particular scarf, we have 50, so it's limited. If anybody wants to do that, the link I'm going to pop in the chat right now. Visit this link and you can go and pre-order your very own American Hammers scarf. But they are very limited, so if you want to do it, you need to get in there quickly. Otherwise, we're going to move to a different design. And personally, I think this is the best one. So, yeah, next week the season starts. I hope everybody's ready. Only one thing left to say. Come on, you Irons.